Gripen versus Russia's Su-35, the dogfight Ukraine needed. The morning sky over eastern Ukraine was cold and gray. Major Yuri Volkov gripped the control stick of his Swedish Gripen fighter jet as he prepared for takeoff. His hands were steady, but his heart was racing. This wasn't just another mission. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. 4 months, Russia's Su-35 jets had ruled the skies, and Ukrainian pilots had lived in fear. Today, that was about to change. Yuri had trained for this his entire career, and now, finally, he had the tools to fight back. The Gripen was fast, smart, and deadly accurate. It was everything Ukrainian pilots had dreamed about. Before we begin, tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Yuri looked at his flight suit, running his fingers over the small Ukrainian flag patch on his chest. His wife, Katya, had sewn it there herself before he left home 3 weeks ago. She had hugged him tight and whispered, "Come back to me." He had promised he would. Now, sitting in the cockpit of this magnificent machine, he thought of that promise. He thought of their young daughter, Mila, who had given him a drawing of a plane and a smiling sun. That drawing was taped inside his helmet. He took a deep breath. Fear was normal, but doubt was dangerous. Fear could keep you sharp. Doubt could get you killed. The radio crackled to life. "Squadron, this is command. We have 3 Russian Su-35s approaching from the northeast. They're heavy with missiles. They're hunting something. Probably our transport convoy. Get them out of the sky, Volkov. This is what we've trained for." Yuri's jaw tightened. A transport convoy meant soldiers, ammunition, supplies, families. If those Russian jets got through, people would die. Not on his watch. Not today. He pushed the throttle forward, and the Gripen roared to life. The runway rushed beneath him, faster and faster, until suddenly the earth fell away and the sky embraced him. He climbed higher, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. The Gripen's advanced radar system painted the enemy positions like ghosts on his screen. The 3 blips, moving fast and low. The Su-35s were built for raw power and climbing speed, but Yuri knew something the Russians didn't. The Gripen was more agile. It could turn sharper, think faster, and strike harder. It was like comparing a chess master to a tank driver. Both powerful, but in different ways. Yuri's lips curved into a thin smile. The advantage was his. "I have visual," Yuri said into his radio. His wingman, Captain Dmitri, was somewhere off his left wing, invisible in the clouds. 2 are staying low for the convoy. 1 is climbing to intercept. That one, the lead Su-35, was his prey. The Russian pilot had already spotted him on radar. There was no hiding now. They would meet in the thin air above the clouds, 2 warriors separated by nothing but speed, skill, and will. Yuri pushed the Gripen higher, racing toward the Su-35 like a hawk diving from the heavens. The first pass came fast. Too fast for most pilots. The Russian fired a missile, and Yuri felt the Gripen shudder beneath him as he twisted the control stick hard to the left. The world spun. The sky became the earth. The earth became the sky. Yuri's vision tunneled. Everything he was existed in this moment, in these seconds. The missile screamed past his canopy so close he could almost feel the heat. His heart hammered against his ribs like a desperate prisoner. But Yuri had trained in a simulator for countless hours, preparing for this exact moment. His hands moved without thought, as if they belonged to something beyond fear. He fired his own missile and pulled up hard, feeling the G-forces press down on his chest like a giant's fist. Black dots danced at the edges of his vision. He fought to stay conscious. "Fox 3. Yuri shouted into the radio, the old fighter pilot code for a missile away. The Gripen's superior targeting system had already calculated the perfect firing solution. The Russian Su-35 had nowhere to run. The missile connected with a bright flash that lit up the gray morning sky. The explosion bloomed like a terrible flower, leaving only black smoke and falling debris. 1 down. 2 to go. But the victory was short-lived. The other Su-35 had broken off from the convoy attack and turned to face Yuri. Now he was in the crosshairs of a second enemy. His wingman Dmitri was handling the 3rd Russian, locked in his own deadly dance somewhere below the clouds. Yuri was alone against a veteran Su-35 pilot. The Russian had experience. The Russian had power. But Yuri had something else. He had the will of a nation fighting for its freedom. He had a daughter waiting at home. He had a promise to keep. The engagement became a ballet of death, a high-speed conversation written in turns and missile trails. Yuri took the Gripen down hard, pushing the jet to the edge of what physics allowed. The Su-35 followed, bigger and heavier but still fast. At 5,000 feet, Yuri saw his opportunity. The Russian pilot had committed to a move that couldn't be undone. Yuri cut inside his turn, a maneuver that should have been impossible at this speed. The Gripen's superior maneuverability showed its worth. Suddenly, the Su-35 was in front of him instead of beside him. Instead of being the hunter, the Russian had become the hunted. "You're done," Yuri whispered, and he squeezed the trigger. The cannon fire was a stream of golden death that painted the sky. The Russian jet couldn't escape. It couldn't outrun what was already upon it. The Su-35 took the hit, and something fundamental broke inside it. The pilot ejected immediately, a small figure tumbling through the air beneath a white parachute. Yuri didn't shoot at the parachute. He wasn't a murderer. He was a warrior. There was a difference. The damaged Russian jet spiraled down like a wounded bird and crashed into a forest far below. Dmitri's voice came through the radio, breathless and victorious. "Enemy 3 is down. We got them all. All 3. There was a moment of silence. Then the control center erupted in cheers. Yuri could hear them through the radio, celebrating, crying, releasing months of tension and fear. But Yuri felt something different. He felt hollow. He felt the weight of what had happened. Lives had ended today. Other families were getting the same kind of phone call his family might have gotten. Other daughters were losing their fathers. That was the truth of war that the textbooks never taught you. "Volkov, what's your status?" Command asked. "Gripen showing some damage from the first engagement, but she's holding strong," Yuri reported. "I'm heading home." The flight back was long and quiet. The gray sky seemed to press down on him with new weight. As he approached the airbase, he could see soldiers standing on the runway, watching. Word had spread fast. The new Swedish fighter had come to Ukraine, and it had proven itself in combat. It had proven that victory was possible. When Yuri climbed down from the cockpit, his legs were shaking. Dmitri ran over and grabbed him in a fierce hug. "You did it, brother. You did it." Yuri nodded, unable to speak for a moment. His commanding officer approached with a serious face. "Major, what you accomplished today, it matters. It proves that we can stand against them. It gives us hope." Yuri looked out toward the horizon where the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Tomorrow there would be more flights, more battles, more risk. But today, in this moment, Ukraine had shown that it could fight back. Today, a new chapter had been written. That evening, Yuri sat in his small room at the base and pulled up a video call to his family. Katya's face appeared on the screen, and her eyes widened with relief. "You're okay," she said, tears running down her cheeks. "I'm okay," Yuri confirmed. Mila pushed into the frame, her 7-year-old face full of concern and joy. "Daddy, you're alive," she shouted. Yuri smiled, really smiled, for the first time in hours. "I am, sweetheart. I am." He looked at the drawing she had made, still taped in his helmet on the table beside him. A plane. A sun. A promise kept. "I'm coming home soon," he said, and he meant it. "But first, I have work to do. Work that matters." As the call ended and the screen went dark, Yuri looked out the window at the stars beginning to appear in the night sky. The Gripen sat silent on the tarmac, waiting for tomorrow's mission. Swedish engineering had given Ukraine a new weapon. But it was courage, loyalty, and the love of country that made it truly deadly. That was the real power. That was what Russia could never understand about the people they fought against. They were fighting not just for territory or power. They were fighting for their families, for their freedom, for a future where daughters could draw pictures of sunny skies without fear. The dogfight was over. The war continued. But Ukraine had proven something fundamental today. It had proven that it could win.